Yeah, all right, guys, you're welcome to question 32 of still on this challenge, and we are still solving problems on differentiation. So, guys, let us see what this problem has for us. It says a trader realizes 10 minus x squared naira in profit from the sale of x bags of corn. How many bags will give him the maximum profit? Now, the two words I want you to pay attention to is this stuff and this stuff. Now, what you see here is a quadratic expression. And this term you see here is a very important term when you talk about quadratics. Now, let me quickly explain that to you. Remember, when you solve problems in quadratics and when you have to graph a quadratic expression or quadratic equation, you're going to have something like this, right? Either it opens downward or you have a curve that opens upward. So whenever you graph a quadratic equation, these are the possible ways you're going to have your curve show out. Either it opens downward or it opens upward like this. Now let me tell you why the curve is either opening downwards or opening upwards. Remember, quadratic equations are generally written as y equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, the term that makes it open upward or downward is the sign of a. So if a is positive, if this a, I mean the coefficient of x squared, the coefficient of x squared is positive, is going to open upward. Open upward like this. But if the coefficient of x squared, which is a, if it is negative, it's going to open downward like this. So now we know why the curve either opens upward or downward. Now let us go further to discussing other details about the curve. Now this point you see here is the turning point of the curve, and that point is the vertex. Okay, so this point here also is called the vertex. Now, when the curve opens downward like this vertex is referred as the maximum point of the curve. But when it opens upward like this vertex is referred as the minimum point of the curve. So that means whenever you have the curve open downwards, you're talking about the maximum point, and whenever it opens upward, you're talking about the minimum point. So let's go back to this problem. Looking at this function given to us, let me say y is equal to this stuff to make things a lot easy for us. Let's say y is equal to 10 minus x squared. So looking at this stuff, you can see that a is the coefficient of x squared, right? And in this case, the a here is simply going to be -1 because this is minus. So the a is negative. And when the a is negative, remember I told you when the a is negative, which is this case, you have the curve open downwards and you talk about maximum. And that is why you have the maximum stuff right here. You see, everything is actually aligning. So when the a is negative, the curves open downward and you talk about the maximum point. Now, let us go back to the maximum point. You can see at the maximum point or at the minimum point, the slope there is going to be 0. Now, I have to explain this stuff a lot, much more clearer. Let's say you have a curve like this. At this point, if you're standing right at this point, you have slope. You're going to feel a force that is pulling you down. So that means there's a slope on that point. Remember, slope is just the measure of steepness of a curve or a line. Slope is the measure of steepness of the curve or a line. So if you're standing at this very point, you feel the steepness of the curve, right? But if you stand at this point, man, you're very balanced. There is no curve, there's no steepness, there's no slope acting here. In other words, the slope acting here is going to be 0. Do you get what I'm saying? So it means that at the maximum point or at the minimum point, the slope at that particular point is always going to be 0. Remember, dy dx is talking about slope. The differentiation we are doing we are just calculating the slope of a line at a certain point. So with this understanding, can we solve this problem? Yes. Now let's go back to this problem. It says a trader realized 10 minus x squared naira profit from the sale of x bags of corn. How many bags will give him the maximum profit? So remember, at the maximum point, the derivative at the maximum point is what? 0. So in other words, if we differentiate this guy, we're going to set the derivative to be 0. Okay, now let's quickly differentiate it. Remember, we have y is equal to 10 minus x squared, right? So if we differentiate this stuff, we have dy dx is equal to 10 will give us, when you differentiate 10, you get 0. When you differentiate, sorry, this stuff is not 10. This is 10x. I was just looking into the question book. This is 10x, sorry. That is 10x, not just 10. So pardon for that little error. So let me rewrite that stuff. So this is 10x, not 10, please. So this is y equal to 10x minus x squared. Okay, I hope we are all good. So remember, if we differentiate this stuff, we're going to get the y dx is equal to 10 minus 2x. So at this very point, this differentiation is going to be 0 because remember at the maximum point, we are interested in the maximum point. We are interested in the maximum profit of this sale. So at the maximum point, the derivative there, or the slope there, is going to be 0, right? So all this stuff, which is the derivative, is going to be 0. So we now have 0 is equal to 10 minus 2x. And if you collect like terms, you have minus 10 equal to minus 2x. And when you divide both sides by minus 2, you're going to find out that x is equal to 5. So the answer is going to be 5. But before you move out from here, let me explain this stuff again for you. Remember, we are giving the function as 10x minus x squared. And we are interested in the maximum point. Like I told you, at the maximum point, the derivative of the function at the maximum point is going to be 0. So this is the function. So when we differentiate this function, we got 10 minus 2x. So at the maximum point, this guy is going to be 0. That is why this dy dx changed to 0. So now when it's now 0, you collect like terms, you see x is equal to 5. The same thing happens at the minimum point also. The derivative is still going to be 0. So maybe they're asking you in your test how many bags will give him the minimum profit. So you also know that at the minimum point, the derivative of the function at the minimum point is still going to be 0, not only at the maximum point. At the maximum point, you see there's no slope there, so the slope there is 0. At the minimum point, there's no slope, so the slope is 0. So at both points, the derivative of the function at both points, whether it's the maximum point or the minimum point, is going to be 0, just like you've seen here. So the answer to this question is going to be 5. So I'm sure this has been helpful. If it is, let us know in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video challenge. Bye for now, and God bless.